So Brian sends me a quick note the other day. This is Brian Wang over there, and Brian sends me a quick note the other day that I was just so intrigued by, but it took me days and days to find him where he had enough time to talk about this subject. So this is breaking news, and we're going to talk about the next level, really, of the unboxed concept, and be prepared to have your mind blown. Brian, glad to have you on board today.
Glad to be here, Randy.
So, all right. So what we know so far, us plebes that are not next big futuring, by the way, that's his website. You should go to his website. Elon apparently does go to his website. So nextbigfuture.com. Anyway, Brian has been noodling out in his mind. And we know that the current idea is that you're going to have components coming to one location as opposed to going down a line. Is that kind of the idea, that the car will no longer move along a line like we think of in an automation, but rather things will come from the air, things will come from the sides?
My understanding is that we already in Tesla factories have, according to Joe Justice, hexagonal work zones that are 3D. So you can have like 1 or 2, 3 layers. So if you go into Austin, the roof is like 40 feet high. So then you can have, 4 10-foot tall work zones in it where things can converge, even though it's like not floors. And they also have like 2 or 3 floors above. Right. So I think the top floor has batteries and cells, and then they drop into packs, and the packs drop into the right location. So they already have this kind of 3D stuff going. The difference with the unboxed, and they also don't have things going, down a linear line. They have I go from one zone to another zone to another zone to another zone, kind of like hopscotching through the whole facility. And I think they move the platform with them. So that's already kind of happening. The difference with the unboxed process is, instead of making the frame of a car and then putting stuff into the frame and then putting the doors on, painting the whole thing, removing the doors, and then doing some other finish work. The reason they do that, painting the whole thing together and then removing doors and then putting it back in, is because they want to paint over welds, right? So they need to have everything kind of like welded together and then painted, and then so there's a process about how they make it that they need to do this order of stuff.
Okay.
But if Tesla chooses not to do welds, I put it together a different way, or I don't paint the car at all, Cybertruck, then I don't need to worry about that thing. So then they say, okay, I removed the constraint about I need to do this painting thing in order to get the paint right. Okay, maybe I don't have paint. Then they were saying, okay, I make sub-modules. So I make, this, left corner of it, this, right front corner, right rear corner. So 6 or 8 some pieces. Just like you have the 2 castings out, front and back. Mm-hmm. Not in all vehicles, not all Tesla vehicles, but they can do it all. And then the battery pack. So they can say, okay, I make 8 different pieces. I do them all at the same time. So this is the big thing about, I make 8 different pieces. So if we talk about 8 different pieces, I can put Tesla bots around it. I can put humans around it. I can put more labor onto each thing. But I can make them in parallel, right? And so instead of one car moving down the line 8 hours, which is faster, 2 to 4 times faster than Volkswagen. Herbert D said, oh yeah, it takes us 14 hours for ICE cars, 30 hours for our ID4 or whatever to make. Front to end, like start in the factory, right? Drive out the end, takes 15 to 30 hours. Tesla 8 hours. So if I break it into 8 chunks for easy calculation, I make that piece in 1 hour. I make all the other pieces in 1 hour at the same time, and then at the end, I snap them all together like giant Lego, and weld them, do whatever it takes to hold it together. 1 hour instead of 8 to make a vehicle, right? So that'd be the huge difference.
So now I was watching one of the videos. I think it was a Sandy Monroe video the other day. Might not have been. It might have been somebody else. But they were showing how many things currently in the car snap together, as opposed to using any fasteners. Well, I guess there's probably some kind of fastener in terms of the way that it fits, or the way that there's some kind of easy fasteners that don't require any kind of a wrench or something to make them work, or any kind of weld. So you're saying just keep going with that concept. More and more things that pop together, as opposed to having to be welded, bolted, or use any other kind of fasteners. That's part of the idea?
That's part of the idea. And that was Autoline had the video showing a particular workman or consultant showing how easy it is to take apart and put back together a Model Y. And so he like snapped on the bumper. He's lifting the bumper, and one person's doing it, like multiple people. And there's not like a precision thing you gotta do. It's like, is it the only way it fits? Boom, snap it in. And then the trunk, I pop in this piece, and then that piece, snap, snap, snap. I put in this section of a wire holding piece. It only fits in this one way. Boom, snap. So it was like putting together the entire rear of a Model Y in the course of like a 2 minutes of a video of it doing it, and built so that it holds without having to be welded. I know that some other cars in history have had a bit of this in it, but usually just the interior parts. It was the Saturn vehicle, because I used to have a Saturn, and I realized about this whole snapping together thing when my car was parked on the side of a road, and I walk up, and some kid who didn't wipe his windows drove up and slammed into my car. So it was like seriously, my car is parked, and then you slammed into the rear of my car, right? And it was a Saturn. And so I go in, and the air conditioner vents and stuff like that had popped out, right? Because the force of the hit had taken and popped out that thing. And I just took it and just popped it back in. It snapped back in. So plasticky, snappy back in type stuff is happening at the vehicles, but this is more structural, like not a whole bumper and other stuff like that.
Right.
Tesla.
So in the process of this concept, then is I kind of went back to the Optimus robot again, because as we were kind of thinking about the robot, you would potentially build the arms over here, and you build the legs, and the legs and arms might be pretty much the same in terms of how they're put together. And you're building the legs over here, and you're building the torsos over here, and then you bring them all to one zone, and you just stand up the torso and pop in the arms and the legs and put on the head and push it out the door. Is that kind of what you're thinking about with the car? You'd have sections that are made in different places, maybe above, maybe below, maybe to the right, maybe to the left, and then they all come together and go right out the door.
So there was a piece of information that I looked at from like a 2020 article where they mentioned that the Model 3 has 10,000 parts back in 2020, 2019 or 2018, like 10,000 parts. That's before any gigacasting. So if I do a gigacasting, I'm taking out 400 to 1,000 parts. I'm taking out other parts of things. So they got 2 gigacasting, and now they're talking about a middle gigacasting, which would be a complex underbody. And that's also several hundred parts, right? But they need to do special technology for each of one of those things. The front and rear gigacasting needed new alloys where they could inject it and it would form the mold and set in a microsecond or something like that, in less than a second, right? For the complex underbody, they said they're using industrial sand to make the mold complex enough to do it. And then again, they inject metal into it. They're not doing cheap plasticky parts. They're still doing metal,
right? But
they need the mold is super complicated. They need to use an industrial sand process. And again, there's some videos I've linked them in my thing about that. But the thing is, so then 3 major pieces are, big parts of the car, right? Taking out several hundred parts. Right. So going from like 10,000 maybe down to 9,000, maybe to 8,000, because they're eliminating other parts all the time. So maybe down to 8,000 parts.
Right.
Other cars are 30,000, right? So that goes to Volkswagen taking 30,000, doing 30,000 parts, 30 hours to make it, kind of corresponds to 1,000 parts per hour.
Yeah.
Right. It's just math. So, but you don't have to stop with 3 major pieces. I can say, here's of these 8,000 parts, here's 50 parts here, here's 20 parts here. I can make those into a big, moderate sized casting. Right. So I get more and more toward the ideal of Legos. Everyone had Legos before. If I make my Lego car, I'm putting together 20 pieces. Boom, I made my Lego thing. If I'm making the aircraft carrier ship or the Death Star model, not Legos, but model, where I'm gluing together pieces.
Yes.
The old model stuff, right? Here's a 500 piece, 1,000 piece thing. Those things take you days to put. If you even finish it at all, take you days to put. I'm putting together like 1,000 pieces. But my Lego, the 8-year-old kid, boom, 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 boom. 1 minute, my car is done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So same kind of thing where if I drive the part count down, simplify the heck, as Elon says, simplify, simplify, simplify. They drive that part count down to under 1,000. Right. So in one, I broke it up into 10 pieces and make it at the same time. And each thing only takes 100 pieces. Now, how fast do I make that car?
Right.
So, and I'm doing it with Tesla bots because, how hard is it for the Tesla bot to? I simplify it. All it's doing is snapping stuff together. So the convergence of making fewer parts, making it simpler and easier, and the Tesla bot's getting better. Then, people think, it'd be so hard to make the robot, not to make the task easier. Not if I drop the part count down. It's not a complex cruise ship airplane model with 10,000 pieces, a puzzle thing that's got like all the pieces. It's
Legos.
Simple, fewer pieces.
So the last thing on my question list is there's been all this conversation over and over and over again. It's always about the wiring harnesses and how difficult they are to put in, and that Elon has already reduced that from 1,000,000 miles to 100 miles. I forget, whatever it was a lot. But people talk about Bluetooth. Why isn't there more of that cabling that is happening, through some kind of through the air as opposed through wires?
I think it's the same reason that we occasionally have dropped Wi-Fi at home.
Okay, all right.
Right? It's because it works most of the time, but
but it would be bad. It would be really bad if it's not.
Right. If it's not quite that 99.999% reliable,
right?
Then so they say, okay, we stick hard wire, but we drop from I think 10,000 meters back in the day. Now 4,000 or 5,000 recently. Goal being 100 meters of cable.
That's his goal,
right? That's his goal, right? So, and he always changes his goal, maybe going to 50 meters.
Right.
But like making it again dirt simple, and I could fuse it in where the wire thing not just it only snapped in one way. It's already built into a larger piece, right? Where it's like this whole module, it has the wire built in.
Right.
I snap it in, and it all connects. So that goes to how to simplify it, and I just inject this, and then boom, it's done. It's got the wiring connection in there, and it's 100% reliable. So,
and then your thinking is that eventually they'll be popping a car out every 10 minutes?
I think that is not impossible. Yes, a definite half hour, easy, right?
Yeah.
When you're at like 1,000 parts and broke them up into 10 major submodules, right? I could see a half hour for the vehicle, and then if you get down to super simplification, some are getting down to like 200 major pieces, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's like 1,000 parts in an hour, right? And if I broke it up into parallel, then if I have 100 parts, it should be less than 10 minutes to put those 100 parts together, and I snap 10 together, done. The whole kind of fractal exponential manufacturing. I put 10 pieces to this one, 10 pieces of this one, parallel, and then come together. So it's like a reverse tree. The branches go into trunks, or into larger branches, go into the trunk, and then it comes out. So it's a reverse tree of manufacturing instead of this complex assembly lines or simple things.
All right, Brian. Well, everybody should go to his nextbigfuture.com website because Elon goes there yes. At least once and maybe a lot. Who knows? And do many millions of other people. It's one of the what you had another record last month. Didn't you?
Yeah. Last month I beat the MIT Technology Review. They have 1.9 million views. I had 2.4 million. That made me rank 36,000th globally, all websites. 17,000th or so in the United States, all websites, and almost in the top 1,000 for news and media. So
there you go. All right, keep going. You go, Brian.
Thank you.
All right. So we're going to have Brian on one more time over the course of these few days here because Brian also wants to talk about the big deal that's going on with the semi-trucks right now. That is real. You know that Brian and we have been the ones from the beginning that have been the number one bulls when it comes to the semi-trucks. And it breaks my heart that they're not making 1,000 a week right now, but someday it'll happen. Anyway, we'll have Brian back to talk about what's going on with the test right now with the semi-trucks and how well they're doing. Brian, thanks again for being on.
Thank you.
All right. And for all of you out there, it's been great talking to you. If you don't mind, I do want to pitch my little device here. I have these little devices for $25. You can't believe how cool this is. Look at how thick the stainless. I mean, holy mackerel! It comes in it comes in a camo as well. It's a can opener. I mean, I'm sorry, not a can opener, a bottle opener. So you got your bottle opener here too, and it's got a magnet on the back, so you can slap it up on your fridge. I mean, is this good or what? So anyway, you just send $25 to my PayPal account. It's down in the information below. Just click on there. You can send it 20. Now, if you're out of the country, I got to charge you an extra $20 for freight. So, or if you join my Patreon, I'll give you one at the $10 level. I'll give you one for free.
Click the link below to get your paperback, Kindle, or audiobook now.